Ladies and gentlemen, up until now you've seen the creature perform the simple mechanics of motor activity, but for what you are about to see next, we must enter quietly into the realm of genius. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, Damen und Herren, from what was once an inarticulate mass of lifeless tissues, may I now present a cultured, sophisticated man about town. Hit it!
The Sketch-O-Matic Show.
Oh, yes. Welcome to the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast.
Sketchy.
I'm your host, Sketch-O-Matic.
Sketch-O-Matic.
And this would be episode 4. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. Appreciate your company and your business here. And if you've been with me since episode 1, since the trailer even, well, then you're tougher than I thought. I'd like to quickly take this moment to personally thank you and the very few listeners I've obtained since the creation of the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast. I appreciate your DMs and your emails. Your support gives me energy and drive, which then turns to determination to create each of these podcast episodes the best I can make it. Each one crafted with you specifically in mind. I do hope you're enjoying the podcast, and I'm looking forward to creating many more for you as we move forward together. Okay, got that out of the way. Now, let's get into this week's podcast. And let me tell you, episode 4, you are in for a very special treat, my friend, because this episode features another radio counterpart coworker of mine, but not just that. This man's career is quite extensive in the alternative rock scene. He's even worked in hip hop and rap radio. He's been on television. He's hosted television shows. He's acted in movies. And speaking of which, this is probably one of the most random type of things I feel like the universe, again, is speaking to me. I wake up this morning to get ready to finish producing the podcast, right? And I decided to randomly throw on Grandma's Boy. And if you don't know what that is, if you're too young, just Google Grandma's Boy. It's a classic stoner video game head movie. It's great. I make it about halfway through the movie. I make it up to the restaurant scene. And long and behold, who's in this scene? None other than my special guest on the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast today. And that person is Ted Stryker. I mean, the absolute randomness of it. And I'm watching Ted Stryker as he's a restaurant host in the movie. And it took me a second to realize it. I hadn't seen it in a long time since the last time. I completely forgot that he was in the movie. A lot of people I forgot were in the movie. I forgot Jonah Hill's in the movie. And Nick Swartzen's in the movie. So watching this movie again randomly on a Saturday morning was, I feel like it's my calling, I guess. I don't know. And for lack of a better term, I felt like this episode was meant to be and is meant to be.
I have chosen our very best table for your party.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. This is our harmony table. Thank you. Take a look, please, at our very exclusive vitamin water list.
Oh, I'll look at that. Yeah.
Enjoy the harmony.
Such a good movie. Made me excited to get ready for this podcast with Ted Stryker. We get a deep dive into Stryker, not just as a radio DJ, but as the man, Ted Stryker. We also learn about his radio past, how he got into radio, who gave him that opportunity, him moving to Los Angeles, and so much more. You are in for a very special full-length episode treat. Without further ado, Ted Stryker on the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast, episode 4.
Sketch-O-Matic. Special guest, Ted Stryker.
The Sketch-O-Matic Show, episode 4. And I mean, it's exciting as hell right now. I am sitting with an LA alternative rock legendary DJ, living legend, Ted Stryker on the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast.
Thank you for having me. What episode number is this?
This is 4. Now, check it out. I only had Tim Conway Jr. was my first guest, which fell on episode 3. The first 2 episodes were just me talking to myself on the phone, basically.
Right.
And doing funny voices and stuff like that, just to kind of do a little production flex on the podcast. But then Tim Conway Jr. offered to do it live on his show on KFI AM 640.
Wow.
And all the while I was trying to book guests, and then I try to book you as well. We've been talking for like about a week or so about it. And now you're falling on episode 4, and you're my second guest. You're my second guest. I'm so excited to have you. I'm actually nervous right now.
You are?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
You can't be nervous.
And we're not
around
even
me.
on the air.
I am the most probably normal human being that works in this building. And what I mean by that is I can't believe that I even have a job on the radio. So you shouldn't be nervous talking to me.
I mean, it's more of I never thought this would actually happen. First of all, I never thought I'd start my own podcast. When people told me you should start your own podcast, that you'd be good at it, I was like, dude, it's too much fucking work. It's a lot of work, but it's a creative release for me, which is why I got into it. But then to interview Tim Conway Jr., I'm trying to set up Big Boy from Real 92.3, Big Boy's Neighborhood, and a lot of my radio coworker counterparts, such as yourself. But still, you come from... Can we talk a little about your history at KROQ and whatnot?
Whatever you want, man.
You came from KROQ, and for me, that station it's a legendary station. When you guys were there, you, John Frost, when Jed the Fit, when those guys were doing it, Kevin and Bean, it was like mystical and magical because Weatherly was programming songs that, you know what I mean, that nobody else was willing to touch until he touched it, kind of situation. And now I'm sitting here in the room with you at Alt 98.7 and doing an interview with you on my podcast is far beyond anything I could have imagined. So it's really an honor for me. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, there's a lot of people that look up to you, Stryker. I'm definitely
I can't
one
believe
of them.
That's crazy.
Yes,
so
sir.
Thank you so much. I'm a very lucky and grateful dude that I got to work there and that I now get to be part of Alt 98.7 with the Woody Show and Hudson and my partner Booker and Kristen Limon.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I want to segue into that transition. I know you told me this off air in personal conversation, but how can you reiterate to the person listening right now that transition from going from KROQ to iHeart to Alt 98.7?
Yeah.
What sparked it? How did it come about? What set it into motion?
Wow.
If you want to paraphrase, if you want to go on, I mean, this is an interesting story. Ted Stryker on the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast.
Well, mental health is something that I never really thought about too much until the last 3 or 4 years. Seen friends of mine go through some really bad stuff, and some of them not with us anymore because of their mental health. They ended up taking their own lives.
Wow.
And my happiness was at its lowest point professionally my last 2 years while I worked at the other place.
I see.
And so I took the advice that I would give if someone talked to me, like, if you're not happy, get yourself out of there.
And you've been there for how long?
22 years.
Yeah,
And so I made the decision that I am going to leave here. I did not have another job lined up. There was nothing. And so I stepped away from there, and holy mackerel, did it make a difference for me mentally, my happiness. I feel rejuvenated and reborn professionally because I'm at a new place, new building, new place to park.
Yeah.
I took a big leap.
Yeah, you took a risk.
Fortunately, things have gone okay. I'm super happy. I'm in a good place mentally now.
You seem happy. You seem content. And your podcast is fire.
Thanks,
but I want to
man.
get to the podcast in just a little because I have
No
so
problem.
much to talk about. So many questions.
Go
So many.
ahead.
It's God. I feel like I'm just sitting with the golden goose here, of knowledge of radio and music and okay. So being in the mental health state, I know exactly what you're talking about. Now I'm not on air such as yourself, but working in radio, I spent most of my young adult life at Power 106. And then, leaving there and going and traveling. I lived in Miami. I moved back. I worked at the 100.3 The Beat. So I kind of bounced around. You stayed in one spot. And I understand that consistency, it's like building roots. It's hard to uproot yourself from that. Even though you're not changing markets into another city, you're staying within LA, but you had nothing lined up. Did you ever feel like, is it over? Did you ever feel that, or did you know, because you're Ted Stryker, you're gonna be able to land on your feet with another gig somewhere?
I thought I did not know what's going to happen, but I am willing to take the risk and bet on myself.
Of course.
As much as I doubt myself, which is almost every single day,
Every single second
also
here.
have some confidence at the same time.
Yeah.
Before even every show, every single radio show I do, I get nervous and I get a stomach ache. And I say, how are we going to do this today? And then driving home, I feel really, really, really good.
Right.
Then I go to bed, I get up. How are we going to do this? I
All
can't
over
do this.
again,
Yeah, it's this and it should not be like that. But at the same time, I think if I didn't tick in that sort of way, maybe I wouldn't have any success at all.
I hear what you're saying. It's a vicious cycle, but without it, you know that it makes it real and makes it worth it because you're getting nervous for something you've been doing for decades.
Yes.
And I still get nervous. I was shaking in my space Nikes when I was going on. My mouth was so dry. If you get a chance to listen to the Tim Conway Jr. podcast that I did with him, the compression on KFI is so intense. You could hear like the crackles.
Right.
And the more water I drank, the worse it got.
No.
It was insane. I mean,
I'm sorry, man.
When you get nervous, what besides the stomach you said, what else happens? Like, do you get dry mouth?
Nope,
hands
I don't
get sweaty?
get dry. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Without realizing it, I do pacing. I have my head down and I'm plotting out like a skier going down a hill with moguls or a running back, the course that I'm going to take. And I'm thinking about not what I'm going to say, but how am I going to get in all this stuff? And I'm just like, and get nervous. And like before TV appearances, red carpet hosting, with the podcast, it's real. It's like
You're preparing.
Yes.
And you're trying to map out the course of
Correct.
which way you're going to go. I like the skiing analogy. I'm going to add some skiing.
Yeah, like the moguls. You're looking at the 10th mogul, not the one right in front of you.
What is that? Now say that again.
You're looking at the moguls. You know, the
Mogul.
bumps.
The bumps.
The bumps.
They're called moguls? I didn't know
Moguls,
that.
yeah.
I just learned something. I swear I never knew that. Moguls I knew in the sense of like, oh, he's an internet mogul or a TikTok
Right.
mogul or whatever. Mogul is actually a hill on the snow in the
Yeah,
slope.
all the bumps on the really hard, because you can't, like a running back isn't looking at like necessarily right in front of you. Like when you're driving on the freeway, you're like, what's going on in front of me?
You're moving like 10 steps ahead, kind of like chess a little bit.
A little bit.
I hear
yeah.
what you're saying.
But
at a
like that
faster pace.
nerves and that anticipation and anxiety for me, it's real. And I always am able to talk myself into not letting that, into like, you shouldn't be nervous. Who cares?
Right.
But I
can't help it.
No.
It's just like this anxiety of like, I want to make sure I do everything right. And most of the time,
But what does it matter if
What
we
does it matter?
don't? What
It
is
doesn't.
going to happen
Especially
if we
on
don't?
this podcast, nobody's listening. So
No, yeah, we're gonna get some people listening
for sure, now that you're on it, no
No.
doubt. Yeah. But
But
I'm saying
we care a lot about
Absolutely.
the product that we're doing, and
That's
we want to. I
exactly
think we
what it is.
both want to make people happy, which, as a result of that, makes us happy.
that is exactly what my Theo Tony Sanchez always says. He's like, we get anxiety, we get nervous, we get upset, frustrated because we care.
Right.
If you didn't get all those feelings, that means the party's over, man. Like it's not really. And is that what you were essentially feeling towards the end of KROQ? Like
No, I still cared every
cared.
second.
You cared.
Oh yeah.
But did you still feel like that anxiety?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I still, to the last second I was
Yeah.
on, gave it my all and tried to do the best show possible. It was just, listen, the basic line is I just wasn't happy in that situation.
It was
And so
going
I
through a
got
lot
out.
of political type internal changes. Right?
Yeah.
From ownership, management, blah, blah, blah,
Correct.
blah. Weatherly. And he brought you in, correct?
He brought me in 1999.
Now, let me dig a little deep dive into the young Stryker. Where did Stryker start in radio?
I started in radio in Tucson, Arizona.
Wow.
And the first station I was on was a hip hop radio station.
What station? Do you remember?
Of course. It was called Power 1490, jams today's hottest music. This was in 1993 and 94, 95. We played everything, all the Ice Cube stuff and Tribe Called Quest and Public Enemy. Biggie Smalls. I remember when Snoop Dogg first broke, and then hearing the song Regulate for the very first time by Warren G.
Yeah.
And then the Dr. Dre stuff.
So were you a hip hop fan, like at the same time rock fan, like at this like multi music tasking, if you will?
Absolutely, yes. I could recite almost every line to an NWA song in Public Enemy, and I could recite just about any line to The Cure or the Green Day Dookie album. But it was cool. I got to meet Eazy-E.
Yeah.
I got an autograph from him that's on my wall to this day that he wrote personally to me. A backstage pass I have to NWA concerts.
You say you can recite any NWA verse.
Yeah.
But like, just give me a dose.
My name is Easy, but just call me E. But it doesn't really matter to me because I'm the same person, whether serious or rehearsing. I just got to keep cursing. This is for the radio, so I better chill. They won't play it if I cold get ill, but I'm like that. And that's a matter of fact because the street is where my heart is at. Because I don't do dope, not a dope, but I'm doper than anyone that tries to cope with the rhyme I'm displaying and the beat that's playing. But you can try all day and you still won't match up with the ruthless pod because Easy doing a Compton style. That's the scene. You say you can get some. Yo, homeboy, it's easier said than done.
Wow. You just shut me down right now. And you rapped it at like 2 times speed.
I know, because doing it slow would just be even more awful than I actually sounded.
Dope, though, man. You weren't playing. Damn, Stryker is a real hip-hop aficionado. If you take it back to Eazy-E, how old were you when you met Eazy? You must have been a kid.
I was probably 22 years old.
Wow.
21 maybe.
That's amazing.
In high school, I grew up in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember we had a demo tape of NWA, and we were like, what is this? Who is this?
Right. Of course,
and,
it was shocking back then. It was like, holy
shit. But the
shit.
beats were so good.
Yeah.
But I didn't really understand what they were singing, like rap, but it was just so
fantastic.
Fun. Yeah.
Same thing with like 2 Live Crew. I remember hearing 2 Live Crew, Me So Horny for the first time when I was like 10 years old. I was like, holy shit.
Right.
In my head, I'm like, damn, can they say that?
Everything you want.
Luther Campbell, he was so good. And I remember watching Yo MTV Raps. And when I would see some of these videos, I mean, there was no internet at the time. That's how I did my deep dives on some of these hip hop artists. And then 120 minutes with Matt Pinfield to learn even more about
that.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. If Ted Stryker never got into radio, what career path do you think you would have chosen?
Woo! Oh, man.
Finally a good question.
No, they've all been good questions. It's so tough.
I would like to say you'd be in the music industry somehow because you're so knowledgeable of it.
Thanks, man. But I'm only knowledgeable of the music because I like it. There's no other reason. I like the songs. I like watching bands play. I like singing with my friends.
You like rapping lyrics.
I like
you
rapping
might have been
lyrics.
a rapper. If you never got into radio, you might have been like...
Sketch? No, I would never have been a rapper. I'm terrible at rapping. You have to keep this. I'm terrible at rapping, and I know that. But it's fun.
It is fun.
They're so...
Freestyling
are so creative, and the way they can put their words together and piece it together, it's so good.
Well, you don't know what you'd be if you would
maybe a bat boy for the Dodgers
or a backup Beastie Boy. I think you know what I mean.
4th Beastie Boy,
4th Stryker,
MCA, Ad Rock, Mike T. Stryker.
Drop. Let me ask you something else about the radio thing. Did you go to school for radio? Did you do any radio in like college or high school prior to that? What got you interested in getting into radio? Was any of your family in radio or media?
No, none of my family was in radio or media or TV entertainment. I was just going to University of Arizona. I never even imagined radio could be a career. I never worked at the college station. I took no radio classes. I randomly met somebody in Tucson that was the program director of Power 1490. His name's Bruce St. James. He ended up working at Power 106. He's the best.
Bruce St. James.
And he's the one that got me in the building.
Sounds about right.
Got me started.
Yeah, for sure. He's a good dude. Is he still in radio?
He's still in radio. He's in Phoenix. He's a host now doing talk radio. And he's very, very, very talented.
Now, speaking of Bruce St. James and how you just said he went from doing that, right, programming, getting you. But what made you like go, I want to do this? What made you, was it Bruce just going, hey, you should try radio? What was it?
It felt like a profession that if I really, really put the effort in, that I thought I could do okay. And I love the idea of being part of a team. I played sports all my life.
Really, like what? What'd you play?
I played baseball, basketball, football, paddle tennis, played it all.
Oh, wow.
I just love the idea of being part of a team, and I hadn't been on one in a while, and it's just that cohesive feeling. That's what I also really liked.
No, it brings me back to what you said earlier about the anxiety. Did you get the same kind of anxiety and nervousness playing sports as you do going on the air?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That means, okay, then that means I think that means it identifies as you being really passionate. If it makes you feel a certain type of way, like in a good way, obviously, not like in a negative way, but you know, like that feeling, that burn where you're like, I got to conquer this fear or whatever it may, this nervousness.
Right. But I think the nerves they come from passion.
Right.
But it comes from probably something in our childhood where
definitely.
we feel like we need to prove something to somebody.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a part of it as well.
So competitive nature, I'm kind of the same way.
Very competitive.
I feel like when it comes to production and imaging and somebody like does something and I'm like, hey man, why didn't you just let me do it? Do you get that way with the show at all? Like, are you very what's the right word? Are you
territorial?
Not territorial, but what's that word I'm looking for? I'm going to take forever thinking of this. This is a damn you weed moment because I had it on the tip of my tongue right now. It's like specificity. You know what I mean? Where you're like, you like things a certain way.
I gotcha. I do like things a certain way, but everybody has to adapt to your surroundings. And I think that's something I think I've been able to do is adapt to the surroundings, stay who I am, and do all I can to help others shine while keeping the focus.
Well said. Well said. Now, did you find because your voice is so very unique, distinct Stryker. Yeah, when you hear it, you know it's you.
That's
it's not
incredible.
Like you don't have to guess. Now, when you started in radio, did you have to work your way up to where you are now, or did it kind of just come naturally? Because it seems like you're just because the person you're talking to right now, as you're hearing this podcast right now, that's who he sounds like off the air. Sketch, excited, you know. Are you going to be here at 6:45? Great, you know, like it's so wonderful, and I'm like, God, he's the same guy.
That's the key. You just got to be yourself, but to find your voice and have confidence to put it out there for everybody, and really be judged every time you put out a podcast or you're doing a break or a bit on the air. I mean, that can get at you a little bit, but you just have to stick to who you are. Like. Exactly how I sound right here.
It's great.
In the hallway, we're going to talk just like this.
I feel like you got to get into more like voiceover for like animation.
Oh,
stuff
I would
like
love
that.
to.
Have you ever done anything?
No,
like that?
but help me.
I feel like you really would. You ever be willing to do a phone tap with Big Boy?
Of course I would.
Right. I wanted to ask this question to Tim Conway Jr. I wanted to say, would you? Because he loves Big Boy, and I know you're a big fan too.
I love Big Boy.
Okay, and I'm like, Big. What if we do a phone tap with like Tim Conway Jr. He calls one of his people. You know,
right?
Like, can we do that to one of your friends?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah,
is that
of course?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna relay that to Big.
But I don't know if they're going to be a good target for it. But we can try.
I think. Well, once I'm done editing it, it'll come together.
All right, good.
Okay, so we'll snap together those pieces just right. Okay, let me get back to this. Just besides radio and all that, pet peeves. Do you have any pet peeves, Stryker? Ted Stryker on the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast.
Pet peeves. I really, really detest people that care so much about what others are up to behind closed doors. Worry about yourself.
Right.
I mean, you're not really not you, but the person that seems to be judging always has the most problems behind the scenes. That's a big pet peeve of mine. Also, if I'm drinking a drink with a straw, just don't assume that you can have some of my drink out of my straw.
Are you serious? People just come up and want a sip of your...
I'm not strangers, but like you're at a friend's house and like you concoct alcoholic or non-alcoholic drink, whatever it is. I have a Shirley Temple, and they're just like, oh, let me try the Grenadine. No, don't. Stay away.
You don't like the sharing of germs, obviously.
No.
Right, obviously. Without...
And not because of COVID.
No, this is prior to BC, before COVID.
Yes. I led the charge on non-handshaking before COVID.
Not a shaker.
Don't love shaking. I like hugging and fist bumping. Yeah.
All right.
Love the hug.
It's good to know because I was going to go in for a handshake after this. Like a big, just, you know.
But I know you a little, so it doesn't freak me out as much.
Plus, I'm a very clean person, I like to think.
Me too.
I'm clean like a washing machine. Okay. Instagram. Do you remember your first Instagram post and what was it?
Yes, I do.
What was it?
I had just downloaded the app. I pulled over off Hollywood Boulevard, and I took a picture of my Red Bull can in my car and posted it.
That was your first?
First one.
And how long ago?
Probably 2009, I guess.
That was around the time I got mine. My first Instagram post was a frozen spider web.
Oh, really?
That I just found. Like, I think I Googled it, something. I don't remember. But back to radio and just everything that you said about Tucson. coming to LA, what was that about? Like, how did that transfer happen where you transplanted to Los Angeles?
So after working at the hip hop station, I segued to an alternative station in Tucson. I eventually ended up doing mornings by myself.
What?
No one in the room.
Stryker in the morning?
No phone screener, no producer, no weather, no nothing. Listen, it wasn't that great of a show, but somebody heard me on in Tucson and said, "You sound like you could be on KROQ. Would you ever want to work there?" I'm like, "Of course."
Get the fuck out of here.
Of course I do.
Who is this person?
Del Williams.
Shout out to Del Williams.
And so he's like, "Okay, give me a best of. I'm going to give it to Kevin Weatherly." I'm like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah."
So
Kevin
cool.
Weatherly got the tape.
Yeah.
And I get home one day
Okay.
and he leaves me a voicemail. "Hey, it's Kevin Weatherly from KROQ. Can you give me a call?" So I call him and he's like, "Here's what I want you to do. Record tomorrow, don't edit it, and FedEx it to me." So I recorded on a tape, sent it.
Like a DAT tape?
No, a regular
A cassette tape?
cassette tape.
Oh, my Lord.
A cassette tape. Unedited. Again, I was not good on the radio. I still don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, no, you're amazing. No, but it's because you're natural. You're you. But my question, let me just quickly interject.
Yeah.
Do you have any of that audio still?
Yes.
Can I get some of it?
No,
we're not going to put any in the podcast.
Sorry,
Is it on
Sketch.
YouTube?
Sorry, but nope. It's
Okay.
nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be found. It's only on the one cassette tape hidden in your garage somewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
In my storage locker, actually.
oh.
He then calls and says, "I got it. Can you come out here on Friday?" I'm like, "I'll be there." We have a meeting in his office. He's like, "What are you doing tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, probably just hanging out." He's like, "Can you go on at 6 p.m.? Yes. So I went on at 6 p.m. the day I met him. He calls me during the show. He's like, "I want to hire you. When can you start?" I'm like, "How about 2 weeks?" That started 2 weeks later, just like that.
It's interesting you said don't play because actually I have the clip right here.
No, you
I'm
don't.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. No, but brings me to my next question about the on the radio and interviews and stuff and the podcast. Is there any interview moment from KROQ that you recall that was one of your favorite interview moments that's still on YouTube or something that we can find? Like something that stands out, either from one of the Weenie Roasts or Almost Acoustic Christmas.
Well, many of the interviews that I did over the years, you have to remember, YouTube wasn't conceived yet.
Right.
There were so many things that I was so lucky enough to do.
What about the ones that were in the YouTube era then?
Okay, let's see. I did a...
that you're sure is on there, that you've seen, that you probably posted.
Oh, man. I did a nice early on 21 Pilots interview at the station. That's kind of a long, in-depth one that I know is still doing pretty well out there.
Right.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Stryker KROQ in the Red Bull Sound Space with our good friends Tyler and Josh, 21 Pilots. It's great to see you guys.
Good to see you too, man.
So good to see you.
I have a video on my phone of like the first time you ever played our song, and we were all like, "Oh my gosh, KROQ is playing our song in LA," and
It's a big deal. We don't like to admit, like, we're actually really nervous to talk to you because you're such a big deal to us.
That makes me feel incredible.
Which brings me to the podcast. I know you're very excited, and I love your podcast, Tuna on Toast, which is still relatively new, correct? I mean, how
It's
long
like
ago did
10 months old.
10 months is still like a baby.
I've been very consistent with it for the most part. The artists come over to my house.
I know. I was going to ask you about that.
My guest bedroom is the Tuna on Toast studio. It's a 3-camera setup, but Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 has been over.
With Blink, you all come from such modest places. So when you're at a place that's successful, it's pretty scary. You're like, we don't want to fuck this up.
Paris Jackson
Yeah, I saw that.
was just over.
That day was probably one of the best days of my life.
Are you serious?
I had never played in front of a crowd that big.
Fat Mike from NoFX, Brett Gurewitz from Bad Religion, and then we've got like Bishop Briggs and K-Flay, just one after another coming. Phineas came over.
I was like, wow, we just as a people were just down for this. Like we let them get away with this.
Did he just come by himself or entourage? Agent, yada, yada.
Nobody
That's awesome.
has come with an entourage. The most people, I think, was 2.
Yeah.
That's it. But sometimes Paris Jackson, nobody.
I remember you just had, who did you have on? Was it the Interrupters?
Yeah, the Interrupters.
There was a bunch of them, right?
Yeah,
that
there's
all came
4
over.
members
Yeah,
in
I
the
saw
band.
the YouTube and I listened to the podcast, but when I heard them, I was like, man, that sounds like a lot of people.
Yeah,
and then I saw
4 people there.
And I was like, dude, this guy's... Now, that brings me to the next part of the topic is bringing all these people over Even though they're famous, does it make you feel a little anxious knowing that all these people know where you live now?
No, it doesn't.
No.
But if you asked me that question 5 years ago, I probably would have
You'd
said,
be like, I'm not bringing people over to my house.
But it's just, I think in this day and age and how we live, it's just, you pull the curtain back even more on your life and just be, as real as possible.
I mean, it's
and they're
very
here
open
at my house.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I've seen what your kitchen looks like.
Right.
What the front door looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what city it's in. It's none of my business unless I'm invited over. I have no intention to try to come over and sit in the
You're invited.
the
Sketch.
studio.
Anytime you want to come over,
I appreciate
you're
that.
invited.
No, well, that actually makes me think of this question: is do you ever want to move the Tuna on Toast studio to another location, like something like more like a radio station, for example?
Absolutely
or just a studio?
not.
No, you like being at home.
Way.
Right.
For me, and this is just my own instincts, that part of the charm of Tuna on Toast, and luckily it's doing well, is that it's at my house.
It is.
It's like it's in my spare bedroom.
You have a nice house too, by the way.
Thanks,
Yeah, you
man.
could tell you've done well in your career.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Come on.
Sketch
I live in a shoebox,
All right.
Stryker. But and that also that being married. And you've been married for quite a while now, right?
Yes.
Is your wife in media?
No,
Does she do any kind of entertainment?
No, not at all.
What does she do for a living?
She is an esthetician. She does microblading on eyebrows and lip blush. She's great. She's in Burbank. If you're listening,
Let's
and you
plug
want
her.
to get done.
Let's plug her.
Slash and Lash is her company.
Slash and Lash.
Yeah,
It
her name's
sounds
Katie.
very apropos for Halloween.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
She loves Halloween, but she's really, really talented.
Well, what's your wife's name?
Katie.
Shout out to Katie. And what's the name of the company again?
Slash and Lash.
And
it's just her.
And it's in. Oh, she's a solo dolo in Burbank.
In Glendale.
Oh, Glendale. Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's art in itself, though. It's no
It
joke.
is.
I mean,
it really
the whole
is.
beauty thing is not easy.
Microblading eyebrows.
It just sounds
nanobrows.
crazy. Microblading.
Yeah. Creating hair strokes to give the good shape.
Does she ever work on you? Like, did she ever kind of touch up your brows?
Oh my God. It's so nice and annoying at the same time.
Does it put you to sleep?
No, I'll just be sitting there watching TV, Dodger game, Lakers game, whatever it is, and I can see her in the distance walking at me with a tweezer, wanting to get some random hair that's coming out of my face.
That's bothering her?
Yeah. And it's just, and she doesn't even ask and pulls it right out.
Oh, that's so sweet. Tuna on Toast. How did the name come about? Is it just because you like tuna on toast? Is that your favorite lunch?
No.
What's
the TV
story?
show Seinfeld? There's an episode, the opposite episode, where George ends up getting tuna on toast. Oh, he always orders tuna on toast, and nothing went well for him when he ordered that. So I named it that, hoping things would go well for me. Tuna on toast with Stryker.
I was just making a reference to Seinfeld in my last podcast with the Conway crew.
Yeah.
Now, I know you did TV before.
Yep. I luckily got on a few shows.
Okay, but what the first one?
The first one I ever did was called Who Knows the Band on MTV.
Right.
Hey, what's going on there? You have found Who Knows the Band, the show where we put you to the test to identify fact from fiction. I am Stryker, your host. The game is simple that we play here. We have 3 stories. They all claim to know the band, but only one of them really does. So let's hear from the storytellers.
And then I got to do a couple episodes of TRL in New York.
Right, I remember that. But the one on NBC.
See, you mentioned I was on the Ellen DeGeneres show. That was on NBC. I was on like 140 episodes of Ellen.
Oh, wow.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. I love being a part of it. I can't believe I'm the guy there talking to you on the show and playing your music, making you dance, so thank you.
My pleasure.
Happy birthday, Ellen DeGeneres. Drama-rama.
Oh, my
Singing anything. Just settle down, settle down, settle down.
Thank you, Stryker, for that. That was fantastic. I asked for this song every day during commercial breaks.
I did a talk show on the Audience channel.
I remember that too.
So, Ted, you're the host of AT&T Music, correct?
Audience Music every Friday night. And this is a show where we have incredible artists on. It's a live show in all genres of music, and they sit down and we talk for a very long time. And then the show is the interview mixed in with the live performance, and we have an audience that comes in as well. And it's fun, and I just hope I don't screw it up too much.
I think that's what it was, the audience thing. But
Okay.
they must have promoted it somewhere else.
They
because,
did. They did promote it. They actually did promote it on network.
That's what I saw then.
Okay.
And I remember seeing, but it looked so much like one of their programming, the way the promo looked.
Yeah, it was a real show with a real budget and a real TV set.
Tuna on Toast, more Tuna on Toast. Talk about setting up the bookings. Do you have someone doing this for you, or do you do it all by yourself?
So I started Tuna on Toast. I left KROQ, started it. It's a one-man operation. Wow. totally independent podcast. So the first guest, Tom Morello, Rage Against the Machine, Tom
Love that
DeLonge,
episode.
Phineas, thank you. I just reached out, DM'd on Instagram. And then, like with Phineas, he's got like, I don't know, 3-4 million followers. He's like, I'd love to do it. Here's my contact. Can you email them? Emailed them. 20 emails later, he was at my house 3 days later.
Morello was the first.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard that one first.
Mike Shinoda.
Yes. And what about the story about the couple that was going to offer you all this money? That was in the trailer.
Yes.
I love that story. And I was like, I got to ask him about that. What, just if you could paraphrase just some of it. It's such a good story.
I was in Palm Springs, and this couple was staying right next to me in a condo. It was 110 degrees out. They were
drunk?
Yes. Very drunk, drinking wine. I was not drunk at all or anything like that. And they just started talking to me. And the guy said, I'm going to give you, was $100,000. I'm going to give you $100,000 because we feel your energy. You were in our past life and we want to give you $100,000. What's your email and phone number?
And you gave him all that.
Of course I
and
did.
Nothing, no avail.
Crickets.
Wow.
Crickets.
Now, if you would have gotten that money,
yes.
What would you have first? What was the first thing you'd ran out and bought?
Hamburger or something?
I
wrote it like probably done Postmates, and that's about it.
Okay.
Probably
And
said to
save the
my
rest.
wife,
Yeah.
what would you like? Let's go get you some stuff.
Microblades.
Yeah.
Right? A little callback. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll be here till they fire me.
Good job.
I'll
get a lot of Uber Eats and Postmates and ask my wife Katie what she wanted for a present.
Brilliant. I mean, but they never came through. And I was going to say it seems like the universe has a liking towards you because even how you got into radio and Bruce St. James and then Weatherly, hey, just record the thing and send it to me. How fast were you? I'm just going to jump back to that story real quick. How fast were you from Tucson to LA? How fast was that transition? Like, was it just the next day? Were you in LA? And
you mean after Kevin first contacted me?
How many weeks or days passed before you, or months till you got to LA and were officially set up?
10 days.
Wow.
10 to 15 max, but I think
they
it
move
was
you
10
out here?
days. I'm like, I'll take care of everything myself.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, I'm in Tucson, Market 60. I don't know. No one gave me a playbook on how things happen. I had no idea how many people worked at these radio stations because in Tucson, there's not that many people. Our station was on a dirt road, man.
Was it in a house or was it an actual radio station?
The last station I worked at was like part of it was in a trailer.
Oh, wow.
And so now all of a sudden I'm in this giant building in Burbank, looking out over the freeway
Right
well
across
on the air.
Then they moved over to Venice and Fairfax, right?
Yeah, and then they moved again after that.
Where are they at
somewhere
now?
else. Wilshire Boulevard.
Okay,
near
Miracle
the La
Mile.
Brea Tar Pits.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. And getting set up in LA, once you made the move, what shift did Weatherly put you on? Was it overnight or was it night right away?
I was the number one fill-in person, but I was full-time. And I was on from the first 3 months, it was just random times. And then 3 months in, it was 6 to 10 p.m. got locked in. Wow. And then I was 6 to 10 p.m. for a few years.
I remember
think
that.
like 5 years maybe, or 4 years. And then afternoons after that.
Can I tell you how many times I've literally driven drunk out of my mind listening to you? Like I shouldn't even be alive, my friend.
Wow.
It was bad.
Sketch.
It was real. This is early young agromatic when I was just partly because alcoholism kind of ran in my family.
Oh, wow. Sketch.
But it was just partying. But I remember driving home multiple times listening to you after getting out of work and then going to a bar and getting wasted. And then coming home and having to drive home and make sure you don't get pulled over. And I just listened to you. And it was like a sense of comfort.
Oh,
it was like
wow, what a nice compliment.
It was like
thank you.
What's it called? A designated driver, but you're like my designated voice. Like hearing your voice was just like, oh man, I knew everything was okay if I heard you. Isn't that
wow?
I don't know if you've ever gotten that
to
before.
Hear.
Yeah,
it's and true, I'm really happy for you that you're in a good place right now.
I'm in a great place.
It sounds like you've gone through some mess and done the work, and you're doing well.
What about you? Do you have any vices, Stryker? Have you dealt with any vices? Not just substances or anything. Just like maybe
what do you mean
vices? Like bad habits, not mental health things. Like I know what you're going to go into, but more of like for me, like the drinking. I like to play a lot of video games, almost too much, and buy too many of them. Those are kind of like my vices.
I don't know if I have any vices, but I do get it. I mean, I get excited very easily at things like, you put me in Vegas and I hear the slot machines. It's not that I'm going to go play them.
Right.
But I just get, oh my God, I love this. But then on the other side, I don't really love leaving the house when I get there. I know this is not a vice, but just kind of how I
No,
tend.
I hear you're a homebody. I don't really like going. In fact, I like to be invited places, and I feel kind of ticked off when I don't get invited somewhere, like to a radio event, or even for Big or whoever.
Yeah.
Or even if it's just iHeart, and they're like, oh, we're giving away tickets to such and such, and everybody else gets them, but I don't. But then if I do, I don't want to go. Yeah, I get that kind of feeling like I don't want to have to go and have to deal with the crowd and the parking. And then once I'm there, I'm like, I just want to go home.
Right.
Do you go through that too? You're a homebody.
I am a homebody, but I think once I get there, I'm pretty good. And I'm like, oh man, why don't I do this more often?
Yeah.
But there's something about like feeling safe at home and waking up early, and I'm a routine person. I like to go to bed early. I like to get up early. And if you go to a show, I mean, how lucky we get a free ticket to a concert.
Well, you do.
Well, you get them. You can get them, Sketch.
I get them through watching you vicariously through your TikToks and through your Instagram posts. When I see you post stuff like when you were in Vegas, I was like there with you with Johnny Human from Hammer Toyota.
Right.
Shout out to Johnny. Yeah, I saw I watched both your stories. And I was like, I don't really need to go there. I just watched their entire trip, and I felt like I was there.
That's awesome.
Okay, so that's the beauty. Thanks, Steve Jobs, for inventing the iPhone. I probably kept you here too long. Look, we're already gone like 45 minutes.
Good.
This is a very healthy, long podcast. So.
If anyone made it this far, you get free tickets for light. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, my God.
If you made it this far. I love Big Boy. I haven't even met him yet. I've seen him in the hallway twice. One thing that I did hear was Be Real from Cypress Hill was on his show, and Be Real said to Big Boy, there's only 2 radio hosts that I want to be on with, Big Boy and Stryker.
That's right. And now, have you had Be Real on Tuna on Toast?
I haven't had him on Tuna on Toast
Are
yet.
we
Over the
working
years,
towards that?
20 interviews, great relationship, personal and working with Be Real.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just get like a little timid to ask, because I feel like I'm messing up the friendship a little bit.
That's how I felt approaching you, though. Like, I wanted to ask you so bad, and I was like, man,
I'm glad you did, though.
I don't really know him, but I want to get to know him. But I'm not saying, like, we got to be best friends now. It's just like, man, you're a big deal here.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
that
you
is
are.
so crazy for you to say. I'm not.
No,
I'm
you
not
are.
even,
It's the real truth, man.
No,
it is.
Thanks for saying that,
it's
but
in a
it's
good
not
way, and I'm
true.
glad that you're modest about it. And I'm modest when people compliment my production and, oh my God, you made it all so great. And I'm just like, that's preposterous. I'm just doing my job. But it's true, man. You have a lot of people that rely on hearing you and Booker. And I want to quickly, before we get out of here, before we wrap up, I wanted to transition over to Alt 98.7 because we talk so much about KROQ, but there's so much knowledge and so much information and history there. Not just because it's KROQ, but radio history. And I'm very intrigued by people's stories and how they came to be. And now we're here at Alt 98.7, Booker&Stryker.
Booker&Stryker.
Bringing that collaboration together. Was that Lisa Warden?
Yep, that was Lisa Warden, but I've known Booker for over 20 years. I used to call him when he was on the KROQ New York.
Right.
Howard Stern was on in the mornings. Booker was on at night.
Hey now.
And I would call the request line. Hey now. I would call the request line and say hi to Booker and talk to him.
What?
From here, yeah.
But you guys were like already kind of co-workers in a sense, right? Because you both worked in radio.
But we never, but we would only talk. I would call him on the request line or he would call me. Then eventually we exchanged numbers. I went to New York, went out with him a couple times.
Yeah.
And now here we are all those years later, and we get to be on the radio together.
And being Booker&Stryker, the show, 3 to 7, Alt 98.7, when you guys are together in the room, is there any kind of, is there like a dynamic that you guys can read each other before one finishes the sentence? Like, do you know what I mean? Where it's almost like you don't have to even look at each other or point like I'm going to talk next kind of point. You know what I mean? Because obviously nobody can see us.
Yeah, I think many of the things we do, it's that, especially in the interviews that we have been doing with some of these very well-known bands. Mikey from Incubus was just on with us. Brandon Flowers from The Killers. Brandon Flowers?
Yes.
There he is!
Really wild that we've, been able to be a part of something that it doesn't even feel like it belongs to us at all anymore. And it's incredible.
Jack White, of course, White Stripes fame.
I can't speak for other artists. Maybe other artists go in with a full intention. This is what we want to do. We want to make this kind of record. I've never done that.
Now,
Yes.
is it easy to accomplish with Booker? Is it easy to have that chemistry with him? Or was it kind of like not saying you don't get along. I'm not trying to say, like, is there beef? Like, who's going to run the board? It's just more of like trying to, like, find each other's frequency and settle into it.
You need that, of course. Yeah, you need to find each other's frequency, as you said, and settle into it because he's a professional.
He looks like an actor, doesn't he?
He does. He looks like an actor. He's really good at his job. Yeah. He's got a vision. I've got a vision. I adapt. He adapts. And we try not to overthink it and just have a freaking good time, man.
That's great.
That's what people want when you're driving around. They got 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes. Here's a vibe. This is the vibe of us. Let's all feel good.
It's a great vibe, though. I really enjoy your show. And quickly, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you very much for airing some of my tributes. Obviously, Taylor
good,
Hawkins.
Man. Yes.
Rest
Vin Scully.
Vin Scully. And I just made one for Olivia Newton-John, but I don't know if that made it because, it's a little out of the demographic.
But I love Grease, and I love Olivia Newton-John, and you did an amazing job with that.
Man, Stryker, I gotta let you go because we've gone on too long. I've kept you here for, 20 hours now?
That's all right. I mean, I didn't even get to rap my Public Enemy yet.
Oh, do you want to do a little Public Enemy or what?
Bass, how low can you go? Death Row, what a brother no. Once again, back is the incredible rhyme animal, the incredible D. Public Enemy, number 150, said freeze, and I got numb. Can I tell him that I really never had a gun, but it's the wax that the Terminator X bun, because they got me to sell, because my brother said, well, because my brother said, well, Farrakhan's a prophet, I think you'll listen what he can say to you. What do you know is powerful now? Power, the people say, make a miracle, D-pump the lyrical, black is back, and we're going to win. Check it out. Yeah, y'all, here we go. Turn it up again. I think I may have messed up the last one.
You're rapping like Twista, like Eminem when he raps.
That was not, but I was messing. I don't know if I did it clean.
Acapella. It's crazy.
That was not good.
Have you ever thought about doing any rapping? Like, have you ever wrote a rap, like an actual lyric or like some lyrics? You have, right?
Yes.
Are any of those out anywhere?
No. I secretly write them.
Stryker, I think I'm going to say this right now, an exclusive. This is a Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast exclusive. All right? I think you and I and Booker, or just you and I, we should write I'll produce it. You should write a rap song for the show, just a parody.
Right, a parody.
It doesn't have to be serious, just like a minute and a half. And we could put it over another person's rap song. And we should write something. I'll produce it.
All right.
Sound effects.
All right. Well,
let's do that.
All right. But by the way, the Public Enemy thing I just did, I don't know if you even want to put it on there.
I'm going to.
I was just feeling it.
It's so good. You rap really fast. That's what makes me think you could probably do. You can easily write a rap song, easily execute it. My production behind it's going to be fire.
Sketch, I only go fast because I know I'm not good at it.
Oh, man.
And so I know the words to all these songs, and I can just get them out as fast as I can.
I'm the same way, though, when it comes to production. Yeah. I have to edit fast. I can't edit slow.
Right.
Because then I feel like I've had a stroke or something. Like I can't remember what my last move is unless I move fast.
Yeah.
Stryker, again, man, thank you so much for being on the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast, episode 4. Any closing statement from Ted Stryker that you'd like to share with the Sketch-O-Matic peeps?
Thanks for being so nice and welcoming to me when I got to iHeart, and thanks for having me on your podcast, man. I appreciate it.
You're such a sweet guy, Stryker.
I really, really gravitate towards people that are good at their work and also nice.
Well,
that's my two favorite things.
You're definitely good at your job, and you're definitely a nice guy. But enough ass kissing.
Yeah.
Are we going to write this track?
Are we going to write a song? Yes, we're going to write a song and put it over a modern beat.
What beat do you think?
DJ Quick Tonight Modern or no?
It could be over DJ Tonight. Yeah, we can do that.
Like a DOS Effects beat?
DOS Effects is fine.
Oh, the Chub Rock? Treat 'em Right?
Treat 'em Right's nice and fast.
Yeah,
that's
that
a good
too
one.
Fast?
No, that's a fast record that you can rap fast on.
Okay.
Chub Rock jumps up on the scene with a lean and a pocket full of green.
Real quick, let's plug Booker's podcast with
the Perez Hilton. Yeah, Booker does Perez Hilton podcast. Right. They do it weekly. It's really good.
Is it Perez Hilton featuring?
Just type in Perez Hilton and Booker and you'll find it.
All right, so
Cirque Recoub is Chris Booker backwards.
Whoa, what's that again?
Cirque Recoub.
And what's yours?
Records. But I used to have I know we got to go, but I had a habit of memorizing words backwards. So if someone was named Doctor, they'd be Rotcod. Dr. Pepper, Rotcod Repep. Pepper backwards is Repep.
Are you, what's that called? Dyslexic?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Like Don Johnson, Nod, Nos, Nodge. Damon is Nomad. Ramon is Nomar. So like Damon Stoudemire was Nomad Rimadoots.
Dude, this would be a great segment on the show, like a game for callers, that if they can give you a name and you have a certain amount of time to...
Oh, I'll get it. Jennifer's Ruffin Edge.
Any name you can
Anderson,
say backwards.
Redna.
Sketch-O-Matic.
Okay, now that's a tough one because that's not a real name. And Sketch is tough. Chet's. Matic is Sitam.
Wow, but that's still a crazy, unique talent I never knew about you. That you're
It's
able.
not
to
a talent though.
Well,
it was boredom years ago with my friend just to memorize these names.
I mean, but still, you did it pretty fast though. Okay, and what about palindromes? You know what those are, right?
Like
words that mean or say the same thing backwards.
Race car.
Yes, I was just about to say that. Race car.
Yeah, palindromes.
What other ones are there?
Palindromes is not my thing.
Okay.
But like I had rules, like a Y would always stay on the end, so Larry would be Rally, Jerry would be Reggie. I put that in the rap song we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Now, if you've really made it this far in the podcast, Sketch is gonna write you a check for 10,000
pesos.
Pesos. All right, Sketch.
All right,
let's wrap.
Ted Stryker, plug the podcast one more time.
Tuna on toast. Tuna on toast. Very easy to find.
Ted Stryker, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
on the
Sketch.
Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast.
Oh, good for you. And how was it?
The Sketch-O-Matic Show.
Hey, too much information and shit, man.
Shut your mouth, essay.
Okay, bye.